I've been going to the same optician for some years now. One of those high street chains where they have lots of machines for looking deep into your soul and extracting all the imprints of your passwords and PIN codes from your retinas. Just a few weeks ago, the sidearm fell off my old glasses and it was only kept going by copious amounts of gaffer tape. I mean, gaffer tape is a step up from the pink sticking plasters that Boots apparently sell expressly for the purpose of repairing glasses, but it still doesn't cut it in the cool stakes. I had to get a new pair. But when I got to I Can See Clearly Now, hysterical play on I get it, maybe not. They were closed for refurbishment. Obviously installing bigger new machines so that the government can use them to implant control chips in your eyes so that they can monitor when you're reading subversive literature online and cause your eyeballs to explode by remote control or whatever. Anyway, with my trusty NHS tortoiseshells sliding down my nose, I knew I had to seek out some other optician. I kind of wish there was a GPS eyeball option. Now, that would be useful. Anyway, tech not having reached those highnesses yet, I wandered around until I found a grubby little shop front in a back street, well away from the main drag. Now, as it happens, this turned out to be the real deal. I mean, properly old-fashioned. Even had a bell on the creaky door. Well, they clearly hadn't had many customers that day, or ever. Seated behind a dusty old mahogany desk was a wizened old gent with an array of what looked like antique steampunk equipment with gears and pulleys and proper cardboard trays of lenses and metallic bits and bobs. But what impressed me most was the chart hanging on the wall with rows of letters in different sizes. It's not something that you see in Bins You Like or Specs R Us these days. I mentally rubbed my hands in glee. It was an opportunity to drag out my favourite old joke so that when he asked me if I could read the bottom line, I could say in a Polish accent, "Read it, I know him." Yeah, I really can be hilarious when the chance presents itself. Anyway, after a bit of fiddling about with the lenses, he peered into my eyes briefly with a black torchy thing and made some notes. Actually, he never asked me to read the chart, which was a bit of a disappointment, I must admit. Then he suddenly presented me with a pair of spectacles from a drawer under the desk. I should have realised it was a bit odd because in Lensorama they have racks and racks of frames with fancy pricing structures, you know, buy the right lens and get the left one for half price or something. And they take weeks and weeks for all the scientific grinding and polishing. But these were there. Not bad looking with a ready-made glassware. But I still hesitated. Then he asked me if I believed in fairies. Which in itself was not a difficult question, but out of context, in a dusty old optician's, some weird sort of dating thing. Well, he could see I was slightly taken aback, so he held up a reassuring hand and said in his wheezy old voice, "I mean, real fairies." "What you mean? Little jobs with wings and ballet skirts?" "Well, not quite, but you're not far off the mark." He sounded like an old crisp packet pattering across the pavement on a breezy day. I was ready to make a dash for the door, but I was generally brought up to be polite to opticians, so I answered, well, I never really thought about it. I mean, little folk. Anyway, I really need to be off now. And I edged away from the desk. "Try these," he persisted. And at that moment, the gaffer tape finally gave way and I was left with few options. What was left of my glasses lay shattered on the stone-flagged floor. "Do try them at least. There's no charge, and you can bring them back if they don't suit." The glasses he presented me with were actually very good. My sight was definitely sharper with them. Amazing that he had them there in his drawer, just right for me. Yeah, so anyway, I stepped out onto the street and I began to realise just how good they were. I was spotting things I'd never noticed up to now, and there were little shadows that seemed to come and go out the corners of my eyes, and I wasn't quick enough to turn and focus on. Yeah, these were good. I just needed to get used to all this new activity I could see. And at that moment, something dropped onto my shoulder. I thought it was a dead leaf, so I went to brush it away when a little voice said in my ear, "Careful, you nearly had me back in the gutter." "What? What?" "You can give me a lift home now." I could have sworn there was something there, a little figure. And I don't want to appear in any way that I'm stereotyping little people, but he was wearing a green jerkin and trousers tucked into tiny red boots with curly toes. Oh, and a pointy yellow hat. Oh yes, I nearly forgot. Wings. Bloody hell. "No need for language. Just get me home. And don't bother me with questions about the football or politics. And don't ask me about what I'm doing over the weekend or what you read in the Sun. Home, please." Look, I'm not a taxi. "Oh, aren't you? Oh, one of them new Uber things, I suppose." "No, I'm not any sort of transport." But he wouldn't listen, and I ended up carrying him up the hill towards the West Cliff. Every so often he would stop and pinch my ear. "Stop, stop, we can pick up Michael," or "Larry," or "Swanhilda," or "Marilyn." Look, look, he kept shouting to his fairy friends. Look, it's one of those new Uber things. Jump up. By the time we got up the hill, I was festooned with them. Dozens. All laughing and chattering, and I swear some of them were dancing on the top of my head. And when we got to the West Cliff Green, they just seemed to fly off towards the bushes, quite unconcerned. One of them called back, "Be here at 2 o'clock. I need to visit Lionel in Kinson. Now don't be late. He's promised me cake." And so it continued, day after day, fetching and carrying. I was knackered. And no hint of any fairy gold in payment. Well, did I believe in fairies? By Saturday, I not only believed in them, I was desperate for I Can See Clearly Now to throw open its newly refurbished doors. Whatever the government wanted to do with my eyes, they could do it. Anything but seeing bloody fairies all over the place. Well, the end of the story, I think you can guess. Standard nursery tale procedure. I tried to find the old optician and complain about the glasses, but of course, all that was there, where I thought it should be, was a new vape shop, where the spotty youth behind the counter denied any knowledge of any previous owner, blah, 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 you know, that sort of thing. And without any sort of clever, meaningful payoff. As soon as I got a proper new pair, I just wrapped up those glasses and put them away in a locked drawer with all the other broken pairs where they could cause no further inconvenience. Or could they? No, I'm not stupid. But perhaps every so often, when I'm feeling a bit bored with normality, maybe I'll get them out and revive my faith in fairy tales.